And the biggest miracle of all was that I noticed I could get up and I could kind of move my hips, and I could kind of move around a little bit. And I couldn't. I had to sit with my feet flat if I was, or in a recliner. I mean, it was awful. But I thought, oh my God, I'm onto something.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Cen, and I'm so delighted to have on today my friend Jennifer Diamond, who is a powerhouse, a plant based powerhouse, inspiration, lovely person all around. And today she has just the most incredible, inspirational story to share about her own health journey. And Jennifer was kind enough to prepare some slides with some images to show us.
Yeah, so thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity. And I'm excited to be here and hopefully help somebody, in any way. So, my name is Jennifer Diamond, and I'll share a little bit about my journey. This picture down here is a picture of me as a baby and my parents. I was conceived in Italy. My father was studying to become a medical doctor in Europe. And so we came back to the States to have me born, and then went back to Italy for a while, and eventually moved back to the States. My parents had a really tumultuous relationship, and everybody got divorced. We got divorced before I was age 2, so I don't have any recollection of us together. Um, there was just a lot of fighting and just a lot of turmoil. And that went pretty much my whole childhood. At a later time in my early adult life, my dad was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and that explained a lot of things. But, during my childhood, I felt like I was carrying a lot of stress, and I didn't understand the moods and the behaviors. And I think later on in life, that really, may have set me up in one aspect of my issues. I was really outgoing as a young child. I just loved to dance and be creative and do all kinds of things. This middle picture kind of shows you. And, I ended up going to see a play called Annie, a famous play, and when I was younger, and just knew that I loved Annie and I wanted to be Annie. So eventually I got an opportunity to get into an acting class, but there was a lot of fighting and turmoil long before that with my parents, and my mom wanted us to move. We were living in Illinois once we, got back from Europe, and that's where most of the family lived, but she wanted to move to California. And after many court battles, and even some kidnapping between my parents, taking me across state line without the other one knowing, a lot of private investigators, and just a lot of turmoil. Eventually, she did win the court case, and we did move to California. I spent a lot of time flying back and forth alone. I was an only child, and I had a lot of stress. I had a lot of problems, transitioning from one house to the other. But eventually, if you look at this top corner up this top picture, I did end up getting into acting, and I found that improvisation was something that was really important to me and that I loved and thrived on, because in regular school settings, I didn't really do that well. I was never diagnosed with any kind of, problem, but I had a really hard time, memorizing and retaining information. And so then eventually my mom got remarried, my dad got remarried. There was turmoil the whole time. And eventually I said, you know what, I just want to move out on my own. So this middle picture with me on the roof of this car.
Looking very cinematic.
Yeah, this was in California, and that is a car that my dad bought me when he didn't really like the beater that I bought myself. But I was in a car accident, and it caused a domino effect of lower back issues that kind of followed me pretty much the rest of my life. So let me see if I can advance the slides. Once I was on my own, I just wanted to start over and, do things in a way that that I wished they were done for me. And so I was on a mission. I wanted to have a family and do it the way I wanted to do it. And I met a man that was older than me, 6 years older than me. And, we ended up getting married for reasons I wouldn't get married today. They weren't really good reasons to get married. I just wanted to, like, who wants to start a family? I need to start over kind of thing. But we did end up having 3 beautiful children over here on the side photo. This is when they were little. And shortly after that, he kind of left the picture and wasn't involved financially, physically, or in any way. And I forgot to mention that when I was 5 years old, that's when I started having issues with inflammation. I had allergy injections on and off for like 40 years, starting at age 5. And so between the stress and the inflammation and the allergies, they were environmental and they were some foods at that time. But then coming forward a little bit again, it was a rough road. I was super excited to have the kids, but it was a rough road that I wasn't really ready for. So I focused on something that I could focus on, and that was fitness. I could work out and I could make sure that, I could keep my weight in check. And it was something that I had a little bit more control of. And so you could see this picture here. I did kickboxing and I did, all kinds of cardio classes, and I was always running, and I could have allowed myself to gain weight, but I just wasn't going to. And so then eventually I came across a movie called, oh man, what is it called? Super Size Me. And I just couldn't believe this documentary. And I just took the information and ran with it. And although I didn't make my kids change, I didn't eat fast food ever again. I just was never going to have that. And so, during that period of time, there was a lot of scrutiny, oh my gosh, I ended up going back to college at one point, and I remember one of the instructors bringing donuts to the class on one of the last days, and she offered me a donut, and I said, oh no, thanks, and she said, well, I hope you let your children eat these, so like I was depriving them of something special. And at the time I said, well, if they wanted it, I would let them, but I'm not having that. There was so much to learn and so many different ways. So it was just a really interesting time, I guess. This picture on the bottom is an area near where I lived for almost 30 years, the Santa Susana Field Laboratory in Ventura County, California. And I learned many years later that a nuclear testing facility was there, and they had improperly disposed of all kinds of toxic waste, didn't bury it properly, put it in the water. And I wonder sometimes if some of my issues came from that. I lost a lot of friends. People had cancers, and it's a beautiful place to live near there. But this is kind of a hidden little thing that nobody talked about. So, should I keep going with the pictures or?
Oh yes, your pictures are just so lovely.
Okay, so I feel like I'm kind of skipping around, but I guess you'll come back and tell me if we
Yep.
want to pick up somewhere. So eventually I met a man, which is my current husband, because I said I had gotten divorced. I met a man that's my current husband now. He wanted to, get together and get married when the kids were little, like they are in this photo. And I was like, I was really gun shy. I just had been through a lot with the divorce. And so we parted ways for a while, and eventually we reconnected. And at that point, I was still gun shy. So we lived together for 10 years. And then I finally got married. And I can talk about why I got married. But we ended up moving to Arizona, where I'm currently living. And along the way, during that relationship, even before we moved to Arizona, I had struggled with tons of sinus infections. I had sinus issues. Like if my daughter, if the little one in the picture here, if she would walk around in a circle around me, I would have to stop her because it would make me dizzy, and I wasn't moving. I was always on antibiotics. So I continued to have the allergies. Now I have sinus issues. I eventually had 3 sinus surgeries spread out over the course of many years. And I was on prednisone, and I was always taking very heavy antibiotics, augmentin, sometimes up to 1,000 milligrams several times a day. And sinus rinses and going from surgeon to surgeon. And in the earlier days when I was being treated, the pharmacist at one point said, you're taking these like every month, and maybe you should look at getting a different doctor, because it's really not good to take antibiotics so often. And I took that to heart, and I did find another doctor. um, I I also started doing a little bit of acting at one point that allowed me to get some insurance that eventually was able to. I was eventually able to get some insurance that allowed me to see a really good otolaryngology surgeon, and he performed the first of the 3 surgeries. But I kept having sinus infections even after all of the surgeries. Um, I also came down with a thyroid disorder after I had my first daughter. And, they said, well, it happens. And, you'll just take this little pill once a day. I was devastated. What do you mean I have to take a pill for the rest of my life? I had my daughter at age 20. I was barely living my life. I was just out of being a teenager, and super young to have babies. But now I have this other issue. They found nodule on my thyroid. I had another nodule or growth in my breast, and they said, oh, it's a milk duct, because I had been breastfeeding. And that they said it was clogged, a milk duct that was clogged, and it wasn't. And eventually I had to have that removed. I had to have a tumor that was on my finger removed twice. I just had so many weird growths and inflammatory issues. And I never understood, why this was happening to me. But I just did my best to get through it. I was always exhausted. I went through major depression, which was something that ran on my father's side. And I had heard there's kind of a rumor that my grandfather had with electric shock therapy. And, just saying like it was kind of something that, was in our family. It just added to all of the mess. And so, when I was dealing with a lot of the sinus issues, eventually I was diagnosed with something called chronic fungal sinusitis. And that is where we all breathe bacteria in the air. And I'm allergic to a microscopic bacteria that we breathe in the air. So when I asked my doctor, my gosh, where could I go to live to like get away from this? And he said, underwater, there is nowhere. So, another long-term issue that I was dealing with, and it just seemed like one was on top of the other, on top of the other. And I just never got a break. And, in and out of relationships and trying to figure out finances. And I really wanted to provide a real stable life for my kids. It didn't work out the way I planned, but, that was super important to me. And so I made sure that I was home when they were home, and, tried to have it as normal as possible. But when they were in school or outside, other times when I was either working or at home, I was just trying to stay afloat with all of these medical draining issues. And then, I went to a specialist. He was, oh gosh, what kind of specialist was he? Well, I went to a different specialist who dealt with like unusual type of issues, and he tested me for parasites. It came back positive. He tested me with a DEXA scan machine. I had osteoporosis. I was only 40 years old. And, something over the course of the years that I noticed is that every time I would get a sinus infection, it was a lot of times when I had my menstrual cycle. So the body was tired, and I was working out and doing all this stuff and caring for the kids and everything. And I couldn't work out during like the first 3 or 4 days of my cycle. And I just always knew, okay, I'm going to have antibiotics now for, a duration. And that was another thing that I just couldn't understand. I thought, does this happen to everybody? Everybody can't keep functioning normally when they have their cycle, women. And of course, I never got that answer at the time. So let me see. Let me do this. Eventually, this middle picture here is showing, I think, the third sinus surgery. And you could see this right here, these pockets on the side, they should be black. And black is oxygen. And they should be black here. Let me see, where'd my mouse go? They should be black here and all up through here and all the way up through here and down. This is all sinus. Here's our nose where we breathe, and all of this. So anywhere that it's not black, I had thick mucus and I had no air. And even this one that has air, it should have, I think it should have gone out a little bit more. This one doesn't show it as well. This is all like just packed full of infection and ongoing issues. And it even, during a flight with a friend to Cancun, I could still breathe. So I didn't always know that I had this here. And we were on a flight, and when we were descending, I could not regulate the pressure in my head because it was like stuck and it couldn't get out. And that can cause, rupture. And I ended up just needing the stewardess lady to, the flight attendant to sit with me, and she gave me ice, and she basically said, there's nothing we can do. Like, the plane has to land. I was in so much pain. I had this racing sensation across my eye, and I had such an incredible pain. I thought I was going to go blind. I mean, I thought, oh my gosh, what is this? And we landed. I threw up all over my shoes. The whole trip for me was ruined. I was sick. And I ended up getting some Afrin, and that saved me. I was told later that saved me on the return flight. And then I had the surgery. So, 3 sinus surgeries. Over here, down here, I ended up having a problem when I thought my sinuses were in good shape. And I started a regimen of allergy shots again, which was 6 years long. And I actually went into anaphylactic shock during one of them because of the fungal sinusitis. They gave me a drop in the injection, and I had anaphylactic shock experience. Not fun. Don't do that. But eventually I ruptured herniated disc here from that earlier accident. It finally came to, and I was on my back for 16 weeks. I was losing feeling in my leg. I was having a really hard time, and I could not function, get up, sit up, do normal activities. And so I had to have surgery, and this is after the surgery. And so that was one thing. But then, well, I kind of skipped. So before I had this last sinus surgery, when they did the scan for the sinus surgery, the doctor noticed on the x-ray in the corner, the way the x-ray was taken, or whatever the scan was that they used at that time, that there was a little something that made them kind of worried and wondering about in the pituitary area. And the pituitary gland is a gland that sits between the eyes at the base of the brain, very deep in the head, and it does all kinds of functions for us, hormone related, being able to function with your bladder, all kinds of hormone things. And they said, this doesn't look right. Let's have another scan. So we had another scan, and they said, you have a tumor in your pituitary gland. And I was just like, well, what do you mean? I have a tumor in my pituitary gland. So I kind of just, dealt with the sinus thing. And eventually they had me go to a neurologist and a neurosurgeon who watched my gland, and he said, no, don't worry about it. A lot of people have these, and our scans are so good, we pick them up, people don't even know, it shouldn't grow. Well, mine grew, and I eventually had to have a brain surgery to remove it. And here I am, just coming out of surgery, hooked up to all these machines over here. And I was 5 days in the critical care unit, not able to move my head at all for, I think, 6 weeks, no looking down. You have to look straight ahead. And there was a spinal fluid leak during the surgery. And so they did have to take tissue from my thigh to rebuild and reform that. And they took half of the gland. Pituitary gland is the size of a pea. So we needed 2 teams of doctors, one that got to where they needed to operate, and they did it again through the nose, through the sinuses, to reach the base of the brain. And then the second team came in, which was the neurologist, the neurosurgeon and his team, and they were able to take it out. And it's not like a lot of other tumors where I think sometimes they can see the color change. This was the same color. So that means I have monitoring indefinitely for the rest of my life, because they can never tell if there was any specks left behind, because on the scan, they all look like the same color. But I just hit 10-year mark, and so far, so good. I forgot to also mention, before I had my kids, when I was trying to get conceive with the first baby, I ended up in a lot of pain, and it turned out that I had an ovarian tumor cyst the size of a grapefruit that ended up being surgically removed. I mean, so over the years, I have all these crazy things happening and could never figure it out. But after that pituitary surgery, I started learning about the food. And my daughter and I were playing around with trying to figure out stuff, because she's always wanting to be healthy and I'm always wanting to be healthy. And we used to do our grocery shopping together, and she was an adult, but we were very close. And she came across a spaghetti sauce that was Engine 2, Rip Esselstyn. And oh, I should say before, we tried paleo. Oh my God, don't do that. For me, it skyrocketed my cholesterol. I put weight on, my skin was a mess. But so then we tried checking into this Engine 2, and I learned about Rip Esselstyn, and got really excited and got his 7-day rescue book. And then I found Chef AJ, and I got her book, The Secrets to Ultimate Weight Loss. And I just had this domino effect of learning about, Dr. Esselstyn, and, he deals with the heart. I got Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease and the cookbook. And, I just went and just tried to soak myself into all this information. And what ended up happening, though, was I became anemic on whole food plant-based. And I ended up seeing a whole food plant-based doctor, and they tried to figure it out. I was on iron supplements, I upped my beans, I did all these things, but I was never successful at getting, it was my iron stores, they're called ferritin, and they were really, really low. I was in the ER, and the ER doctor basically said, you got to eat an egg, because he was asking me what I ate. I can't eat an egg, and he said, well, then you're going to end up with a blood transfusion. So I took it really seriously. And I ended up going and seeing a different doctor who has vegan patients, but wasn't vegan or whole food plant-based himself. And long story short, after adding supplement on supplement on supplement, I said, I can't take any more supplements. So he said, well, the only other thing you could do is eat meat. So I sat with that for a while, and I finally went ahead and tried the meat. And it was hard because it wasn't like I fell off track. I really didn't want to, but I also felt like I don't want a blood transfusion. So I did that. First time I tried it, I did not like it. But eventually, we adapt, and the dopamine hits started coming in, and I started eating processed food and more meat. And I had to take all the knowledge of all the people that I had learned about in whole food plant-based and shut it down. I couldn't watch any of it because now I felt like I was betraying what I knew, but I also felt trapped. Like, well, what else am I going to do? So my cholesterol went up again. I gained weight, and I never got off the iron supplement. So COVID, fast forward to COVID, I had my oldest daughter, my youngest daughter, my girls both were pregnant. And at the end of the pregnancy, I decided to get the COVID vaccine because we really didn't know what was going to be. And I was going to be staying in the hospital. They were high risk pregnancies, both of them. And I was going to be staying with one of them to help care, for her and the baby. And I had a really bad reaction to it. And I was very sick. And I still was not whole food plant-based yet again. And so the time came, and we went into the hospital, and the baby was born, and they had to be in the hospital for a few days and then a few days at home. And what I noticed when we left the hospital was that my toe was numb. My big toe was numb. And I'm like, why is my big toe numb? I couldn't figure it out. And we ended up going to her house. And it was between the hospital and her house, it was 9 days. I slept 3.5 hours. So it wasn't very much time to sleep. And my body just started breaking down. I started having numbing and tingling sensations in my feet. And I eventually broke down and just told her I had to go home. I felt like I let her down, like I let her baby down, and she needed me and I couldn't be there. And I went home, and I basically slept for like a month. I got up, of course, to go to the bathroom and to eat, but I would talk to people in the family like very little. I saw the babies, like I couldn't. And then I started jumping around doctor to doctor to doctor to doctor. What is going on with me? And I had tests, EMG nerve tests, MRIs of every part of the spine. I had they diagnosed me with carpal tunnel. They kept saying, everything is fine, you're fine. I'm like, no, I'm not fine. I had numbing, tingling, buzzing. I started not having correct balance. I couldn't hold a pen. I couldn't pour water. I couldn't sit up and eat at the table. And I was bedridden. I ended up being bedridden for over a year. And this picture on the left corner here is when they said, well, maybe this is coming from your disc surgery. So they started giving me injections. And I had 2 here, 3 different times. I also had another set where there was one over here. They started doing them in my elbow. Nothing was working. And when the youngest baby turned 1 at the party, which was at our house, I was able to sit up on a couch. I couldn't interact. And I have 4 grandbabies. So these were the youngest 2. I said to myself, I'm going to be having a blood test to check my cholesterol. I think I'm going to myself, I'm saying this. I know what to do to get it down. I'm going to go back to whole food plant-based and see if I can get my numbers down. And I did. I didn't really tell anyone what I was doing. And at the 3-week mark, I had my blood drawn and I compared it with the last one. My cholesterol numbers went down 50 points, 50. That was super exciting. And I was also watching my thyroid and my Hashimoto's markers. Hashimoto's for this particular lab that I have under 30 is normal. And the scale goes to 1300. They don't go past that. Mine was 1300 plus. So I don't even know what it was. And it had dropped in those 3 weeks to 1047, I think, or 49. So I thought, oh my gosh. And the biggest miracle of all was that I noticed I could get up and I could kind of move my hips and I could kind of move around a little bit. And I couldn't. I had to sit with my feet flat if I was, or in a recliner. I mean, it was awful. But I thought, oh my God, I'm onto something. So I just went crazy and I just, kept going to the doctors, kept searching for the answers, but I also kept increasing the whole food plant-based and submerging myself right back into exactly where I was at one point. And I did have a stay at True North, which was wonderful and really helped me. And finally, I did get a diagnosis. I have small fiber neuropathy with no known cause and no treatment. I was told it's only going to get worse. It's never going to go away. And you'll always have to be on medication, which was completely devastating for me to hear. And after my True North stay, it took a while. It's not a light switch. But after my stay, I had improvements, and I've been improving ever since. And it's not gone. I'm still trying to figure things out, but I did get my thyroid medication lowered. Here are the baby's feet when we were in the hospital. And this is the cart that I was pushing to the car to load up the car. We were getting ready to go. And this is when I was starting to notice that my toe was numb. And, it was just me helping her with this new baby. And I had a lot to hold, in terms of weight to carry. I felt like I needed to make sure everything was right and do everything that I possibly could. And but that's when it started to fall apart. And so up here in this middle corner, this you could see I had to wear socks with very cushiony shoes if I was going to try to be involved in something. This was my mother's, my mom's an identical twin, and they were born on New Year's Eve. And so we had a big party for her 80th birthday. And I am like the heaviest I've ever been in this picture. And it was due to no movement. I was still eating sad. I was on all kinds of medication for the undiagnosed neuropathy at this time. And I was just a mess. And just taking this picture and then, sharing a little bit of time, I was then in bed to recover. It takes 4 days for me just to calm the sensation down. So, I didn't realize I looked like that, at the time. And so anyways, I started doing a lot of things to prepare myself when the doctors told me that there was no hope, that they couldn't give me a diagnosis. Eventually I did get the diagnosis, but during the time that I couldn't get the diagnosis or didn't have one, I thought, well, I got to do something. I can't just, sit here. I was so depressed. I was crying every day. I told my husband, I'm not suicidal. but I don't want to live in the body like this. Like this is, it never stops. I mean, if you can imagine when you hit your funny bone, if you can imagine that in different parts of your body and it never stopping, I mean, it's mentally draining. So are you familiar with Wim Hof?
Yes, the ice baths, the cold plunges, the the breathing.
Yes, yes. So I did the breathing techniques, and here I am in the pool in winter. Our pool is not heated. This was 50-degree pool that I would go in and submerge for 10 minutes. I just made myself do it. And then I would have numb, I would feel numb. You know, I tried meditation, breathing techniques. I went to chiropractors. I tried Penn's machine, cupping, massage. I tried acupuncture. I learned about the circadian rhythm, and I started going outside every day and watching the sunrise and grounding my feet in the earth. And, you know, in our bedroom, we got blackout shades. I took all the electronics, and even though they're in the room, everything is unplugged out of the wall. No alarm clock. Everything has to be pitch black. I didn't want my phone charging. I mean, I tried everything to help make sure that if it is something like that, environmental or whatever, that I was able to, you know, to help in some way. And I'm not an art person. I like the arts, but I don't know how to like professionally draw or paint or anything like that. But I tried it. I tried painting. It was a little too messy for me. And so I went to colored pencils. And this down here is just one of the pictures that I tried to draw. And this is how I was feeling that day. All the red is where I felt sensation. And this is showing it's, you know, tingling, vibrating. It was even up in my groin area. And eventually it went across my lower part of my face. And then sometimes just my lips. And, you know, it was really, really a horrific experience that I wouldn't wish on my, you know, worst enemy. And let's see. So here it shows you, you know, when I'm still diagnosed, right? But I changed my eating and I started feeling better. This picture down here, we're in the car. My husband, his job allotted us to go to see a free concert. And this is me eating dinner because this party they had in a private room, and they were going to have all kinds of food out. And I knew that wasn't going to be my food. So, you know, we can make it work. It's not easy to eat this way when the world is set up to have us fail. And why do I say that? It's because when we go out into the world, or even sometimes in our homes, you know, it's not easy to just go through a drive-through and have someone give you romaine lettuce and some fruit, you know, or you know, I'm holding here are some cooked potatoes without, you know, frying them, and there's a salad, and I don't know, I can't see exactly what's in there, but you know, it's not easy. But I just have to say that the best thing that I know is if you're prepared and you're full, you can do it. And the benefits are outweigh for so many different things, right? Not just these unusual things that I've had, but it helps people with weight loss, and it helps people with, you know, all kinds of chronic illnesses and diabetes and heart disease and high blood pressure and just so many things, because our bodies are made up of cells. And, you know, how do we grow from a little kid to what we are now? Because the cells rejuvenated, right? And if we don't give ourselves real food, then there's going to be things that happen like cancers, and, you know, it's going to struggle. And this doesn't mean that you'll never get a disease or you'll never have that, you know, especially if you're, you know, 3 days whole food plant-based and, you know, 40 years or even 20 years or whatever, I mean, there, you got to think about like, what did I do to my body? But you can definitely improve your health, and the food tastes so delicious when you learn about what food is really supposed to taste like. This is my tray at home. This is my cutting board, and I had cut up all this stuff, and I was going to do wraps. And on the bottom here, this is tofu and zucchini and sweet potatoes. This is, a Buddha bowl. And you can eat so much of it. These are beets, and I think this is a yellow heirloom tomato, and there's salad under the whole thing, and kale. And, look at all of these beautiful melons. The colors are incredible. We don't have red dye 42 or, any of that in real food. And, but if it's only what you're used to, if you're only used to eating the standard American diet, your palate is going to need time to transition, and you got to give it a chance, because my goodness, if you can't move and you can improve your quality of life and have one back if you don't have one, or prevent yourself from going in a bad place, I mean, wouldn't you want to just neuroadapt and eat these beautiful foods that just help your cells become the best that they can, little powerhouses? I mean, that's, for me, this was the way to go. And then this picture down here, these are some foods that I had gotten at our local farmers market. And I love to support them, and their food is always really good. I also try to buy not from the same source every time. And the reason why is because the soil is different. One grocery store might get it from a certain place. Our farmers markets do something different, maybe a Trader Joe's or a smaller, area. They all get it from different sources, where the minerals in the soil are different. So for me, I try to rotate it as best I can. And for me, I always try to do my best to go organic. Sometimes things aren't available, and but I try to do that. I don't know if I mentioned, I also was potassium deficient. I was low in potassium for many years, and I went to a doctor, and they said, well, you're drinking too much water, and I want you to drink Gatorade. And I was like, oh, no. I'm not drinking Gatorade. What else do you have? So we worked out, and we went with coconut water. And so I was drinking coconut water, 16 ounces every day for 9 years. Through vegan, through whole food, I just was always drinking coconut water. Currently, right now, after True North, I don't need to drink coconut water. I mean, now I'll just do it if I want to, but it's not like a medicinal kind of medicine to treat anything, because my potassium levels are normal. Things are normal. So it's just been wonderful. And, by getting my life back, here I am. When I started feeling better, we were able to climb. I was testing to see, could I hike again? Could I move? And there was a little tiny area. It's not very high. It was like our test hill. And my husband and I went up here, and it's cold because it was winter, but here I am, finding my circadian rhythm. I took my shoes off. I did wear socks when it was cold, and I had these poles here because my balance was off, even though it wasn't very treacherous. And, I just would breathe and meditate. I thank my body. It's not malfunctioning to be angry at me. And so I like to give it grace, and I'm so grateful for it, that it's functioning, even though it's not 100%, but it's enough to show that I can do things. Here I am on vacation, the beginning of this calendar year in 2023. I, decided that this is going to be my year to say yes to adventure and focus on my health. And, I was able to go to Live Your Best Life in Chef AJ's conference in January, followed by my True North trip, followed by a trip to Chicago, where I'm on the beach here. And I went to JP's retreat and just got involved in Feel Fabulous Over 40, which is a group, it's a private paid group, and community. I met so many wonderful people. And that's another thing that's really important. You have to have community, because otherwise you're like alone in an island and people aren't sick or willing or wanting to change because they are happy with where they're at. And with community, it's a game changer. It's support and it's love and it's being able to, try things or get ideas. And so anyhow, this is me, very nervous to go on my flight to, I think this was to either Sacramento or I think this probably was Sacramento. And or it was to True North. It was one of the first two trips, but I was a nervous wreck. And I was crying that morning, and because I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to get to the gate because I couldn't walk well. I wasn't going to be able to pick my luggage up and put it, even though I didn't have a check-in, to put it up high. I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to get to my seat. I mean, I had all these fears. And my husband said, "You don't have to go." And I just looked at him and I said, "I have to go. I have to just walk through my fears, and I have to see if this is going to help me." And so, I made it there, and it helped me. And I learned and grew in so many ways that I wouldn't have had I stayed home. And I'm not saying you have to water fast in order to heal. For me, it really helped. But it is a privilege, and I don't take it for granted that I was able to do that. So this picture over here is me. I rode my bike and I went to the local grocery store, and I'm wearing a weighted vest to work on my osteoporosis. And I don't know if you can see it. Here's kale and bananas.
Beautiful.
And I've got my True North hat on. And it felt so good to go in the store and be like, I just rode my bike here. So that's a real pleasure and a wonderful success for me. And I can play on the playground with my grandbabies. I don't have to sit anywhere, and this particular picture, I rode my bike about an hour for the morning one day, 6 a.m, and we're here in Arizona, and this was over the summer. It was probably like 90 degrees already, and nobody was with me. I'm sorry, my husband was. None of the babies were with me, and I play on the play equipment. Do things that when you can, try new things. Try things that you haven't done in years. I mean, be careful, right? But it's such a good feeling. I do exercise at home, but to exercise in a way that doesn't feel like forced exercise is awesome. It's just awesome. It's its own high. And I remember riding my bike to this park, and it was just such an early morning. People were just setting things out, and there's on the other, I think it's behind, maybe back here or around here, there's a lake with ducks, and they have an organic farm, a small organic farm attached to this coffee house. And on my phone, I played that song, "It's a Beautiful Morning." And, I mean, you got to make things, you got to love yourself. And I take baths with candles, and, I don't watch television. If I am going to turn a show on, it's deliberate, so for me, I just had to find stimulus that was take out the stuff that wasn't working for me. And this picture down here is me in my yard, just feeling good, And so let me see if I have, whoops, wrong way. Oh, and then I recently started a YouTube channel, and I have an Instagram that I've had for a while where I post pictures of what I eat. If you're interested in anything that I do, get on there, post a comment. I'd love to chat with you. And I just wish the best for everyone. And I hope that my story has been inspiring and helpful and of value to even just one person, that there is hope. There really is. If you're suffering, you can try it. Like, what have you got to lose? Maybe a few pounds. So I can stop screen share anytime. And
Yeah, sure. We can stop the screen share. Thank you, Jennifer. That was a beautiful presentation. And I just, it's just very moving how one person like you can experience so much adversity. I mean, to go from being bedridden for a whole year to then showing us the images of you exploring and biking with a weighted vest, even,
yeah,
um, that is a true testament to how much the body can heal itself when given the right food and nourishment and water and rest. So yeah, thank you for encapsulating that all. It really is a beautiful journey that you've been through. And I know it'll move a lot of people. I know people with actually with neuropathy, and we know so many people with allergies, with cancers, tumors. And I'm guessing since you've gone this lifestyle, have your sinuses improved um at all? Yeah.
yes, yes, I'm so glad you brought that up. So my sinuses have improved. So after I did all the allergy shots, and I even had my surgeon, my sinus surgeon, at one point say, that she uses my case to teach other surgeons. And I thought, oh, I mean, okay. I mean, is that good? That's good, because it was such an extreme case. But
Mm-hmm.
anyways, I was on these saline rinses. They
Mm-hmm.
they have the pot or these
Yeah.
little bottles. So I was on that with medication called budesonide, where they make it in a compound pharmacy, and different sprays. And I thought, and even prednisone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what happened was, after I switched back to whole food plant based, when I started feeling really good, I got the worst sinus infection. I was treated with 3 rounds of antibiotics, prednisone, all these rinses, Montelukast, which is like a preventative pill, and I had acne. I had just, it was terrible. And you know what? I felt like all the dairy and the different things that I had put in my body, I felt like it was seeping out.
Yeah.
And once I got over that, I felt great. And it wasn't overnight, of course. And I had a follow-up visit, and my surgeon they take a little camera, and they look up in the sinuses, and they put it on a screen. And he said, I see nothing, no inflammation, no pockets of anything, like. And he goes, what are you doing? And I said, well, and I told him about whole food plant based. And this is a Western medicine surgeon, and he said, I I know you're on to something. And he said that he had recently went to some kind of a medical conference, and there was someone talking about the benefits of food. And he
Mm-hmm.
said to me, I know that it's coming
Yes.
to the Western world. And I
Mhm.
said, if you know this, like, why don't you tell people?
Right.
And he said, I'm not educated.
Mm.
So he can't.
Mm.
But he said, you stop everything. You can just do one plain regular saline rinse once a day. And if you get into trouble, if you feel something, like, give me a call. But there's no follow up with him. There's nothing.
Yeah.
So every once in a while, I feel like I need a little extra rinse or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, the inflammation, it's, it's gone.
Wow. And what about allergies? As a child, you had allergy shots and food and environmental allergens. Do they still affect you as much?
So I grew out of the food allergies, but I had a sensitivity test for foods
Mhm.
twice in my life, and they showed things that I didn't have a physical reaction to, that I had taken out. Some of them are plant-based foods, like
Mhm.
kidney beans and black pepper and things like that, but I've brought them back in, and I don't notice a change. But
Mhm.
I'm just kind of careful. So I would say those are gone. The allergy shots, I haven't had in my, like, I think, I can't remember how many years. A
Mhm.
good strong handful of 6 or 8 years it's been.
Mhm.
And I just had a follow up, and they're like, okay, let us know if there's a problem. So we've got nothing for you, because I'm not really having any problems. Now the weather is changing because
Mhm.
it's, and so usually this is a time when I would get a really major problem, a really major infection.
Mm.
And so I might notice a little drainage or a little something, but nothing like what I used to have. So I'm good.
That's great. And before you're diagnosed with the small fiber neuropathy, you're doing everything you could, like even turning off electronics in the house at night and having candlelight instead, getting like a Berkey water filter. Are any of these measures things you still do to try to reduce the toxins in your environment?
Yes, and I didn't share that today, but you and I had shared that, and yes, I still do it today.
Mm-hmm.
I still do it today. Um, Now the candlelight, I've gotten a little lazier on, but if I do have the house lights on, they're on the lowest setting. We have an adjustable,
Mm-hmm.
and most of the time, I'll say I need the lights off. Like I want to continue to be able to sleep. And for me, that was a stimulus. Then I would be up for hours, because your body thinks it's daytime, and with the LED lights, they're different
Mm-hmm.
than, lights of candle.
Yeah.
Um, so yes, I'm doing all of that. I have the Berkey water system, and I'm just continuing.
Oh, good. And on your Instagram page, there are just an abundance of especially beautiful raw food recipes that you make. So, do you eat mainly raw right now? And is that something which you feel like helps with calming down the inflammation?
So that's really interesting. First of all, thank you so much, and thank you for looking at my pictures. Um, so it was kind of an experiment that I did with Janet from Plant Power Peddler, and she had said, "Do you want to go raw? Do you want to try this raw from Raw Food Romance?" And I eventually said, "Okay, I'm ready. Let's try it, just to try something new."
Mm-hmm.
To try new recipes, just to try something new. So we did a 30-day challenge, just with ourselves. I think there were a couple other people that joined us, but we kind of went crazy. And I ended up doing it 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
She's still doing it. And then I found that I was hungry, and I wasn't. I mean, the quantity that you need to eat, I was eating, sometimes still hungry, and my jaw was sore, and it was like a lot. So I brought in a little bit of cooked food, but I like the raw, so I am leaning on that. But there's no real rule, I just kind of try to try different things, um, and just continue to see, does the inflammation go up? Does it go down? Because I can sometimes feel differently. And I wonder sometimes, is it being, contributing from food, even if it's the food that I am okay to eat.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of test the waters with it.
Hmm. I see. So you continue to kind of experiment and see what makes you feel better and better.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And are there things, so True North was a major experiment, obviously flying there, going through a water fast. Are there things in the future which you're thinking about trying that are also haven't done before?
Yeah, and I'm always working on trying to work on my thyroid and my Hashimoto's. And so, yes, I'm open to trying new things. Janet's looking into the medical medium, and she's, inspiring me to look there. I've looked before. I've also thought about maybe going and seeing Dr. Pi, Sunli Pi. He wrote an Inflammation Nation. It's a book, and but at this point, you know, I just have these ideas, but I haven't put them into plan. I would love to go back to True North. I
Mhm.
am going to do, I'm not recommending this, but I am going to try to do a fast at home, uh, next week actually. And I'm, you know, I still see one of the doctors virtually at True North. And so I kind of, said, what do you think? What do you think? It's always better to be monitored by a doctor. That
Mhm.
I am not giving any advice, in this area, you shouldn't do what I do, but if it's something you're interested in and you can get some kind of supervision, it's amazing. So those are things that I'm open to right now and looking into. I'll just say one more thing about on my page, on my Instagram. If you scroll down far enough, there is a picture of a fish that I cooked. I think it's called Rizzini. It's been a while. And I decided to leave it up because it's part of my journey. It's part of where I was, and this isn't a perfect thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just trying to figure it out with all the information in all the different places. How do you know what the right thing is?
Mm-hmm.
Keto, paleo, Weight Watchers, whole food, vegan. I mean, so that's my journey, and I'm okay with even though I wouldn't do that today. I that's what I did then, and I'm okay with it. So just sharing that it's an imperfect, perfect place to be.
Absolutely. I think your success comes from being so open-minded that you were willing to try paleo and keto and everything and just at least give it a shot and see how it makes you feel. So I think without that kind of mindset, you wouldn't have come to whole food plant-based where you are today. And I love how you have that spirit of constant education and learning, and being open to try things. So that's I think a characteristic that has served you very well. Even if, I mean, for me too, I had the whole paleo keto stint, regrettable, but hey, I did it. So at least I can speak from personal experience saying, don't do it.
Yeah, well, thank you. And it's part of the passion that we have to try to figure out what is good health.
Yes.
And at the time, that's what we could reach, that's what we could see, that's what we were, that was new to us. So good for you to just try to find what works for you, and we should all do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so last question. I know you like to dance and sing for fun. Um, and those are things which give you so much joy now that used to be inaccessible when you were very unhealthy. What is it that you wake up excited about now? What gives you generally like that purpose in life?
Oh my goodness. When I get up and I know that I have my quality of life, and I get the privilege of breathing and moving and seeing the sunrise, and just simple pleasures of life are what drives me. Watching my family, the babies interacting, cooking good food, being able to do things on my own, and being able to function normally. I mean, that's it for me. Simple pleasures. I just, traveling, seeing things, exploring. I want to be curious and like a little kid all the time, and just keep learning, like Dory, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. So that's the answer.
I love it. Thank you. I feel like you're going to keep surprising us with new things. Eventually, you're going to become some ultra marathoner or something. I really feel like it because I mean, from veteran to biking for a whole hour in the 9-degree heat, you're really something else. And just thank you for sharing your story and continuing to share it online. I got so excited when I saw you make a YouTube channel and start posting things because it's it's just, it's priceless education and inspiration for people. And I know you've already touched many more lives than you even realize. So thank you for
Well,
all you do.
oh, thank you. And I'm so humbled and honored to be on your channel and to get the support from you. And thank you for allowing me this platform to share. And I hope to continue to do it and improve and make, you know, make things that people can see. It doesn't have to be hard.
Right. You make it
Yeah.
easy and delicious.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, have a wonderful, wonderful day, and we'll stay in touch online.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And yeah, you too. And keep posting those spinning
Oh my God.
beautiful, acrobat type things that you do or did
Oh,
or whatever. They're beautiful.
thank you so much. It's funny. I'm about to go after this just to go spin. That's I feel like that actually clears up my head because my brain is all fuzzy. spin. Oh, it's getting clear. The blood is flowing.
Yes, you're finding your simple pleasures. That's awesome.
Awesome.
Well,
Have a
thank
great
you.
rest.
Thank
Have
you
a great
so
rest of
much.
your
Take
day.
care.
You too. Bye.